All right, time for vlog number 2 as far as my information sessions. I actually, I'm going for, this is take 2 of this one. Had some audio problems, but I'll try it again. Never give up. All right, and today I'm going to talk about visas, visas in Japan, visas for long-term stays in Japan. Um, there's lots of visas that you can get if you want to come and stay in Japan for more than 3 months, say. And I want to go through them, do a little summary, especially I'll talk about the ones I have experience with, and and then I'll give some a little bit of information about my personal experience with visas as well. Of course, now I'm not on a visa, but I was on visas before, so I know something about it. All right, so I'll share the page for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So let me go find it first. Okay, and this will be in English, so um, even though it's a Japanese website, it's in English. This is the English side of it. And I'm just going to go down here to work or long-term stay. Okay, so here you have a list of categories for the different types of visas that there are. You have highly skilled professionals. That is a new one, a relatively new one for people, a lot of people who are involved in technical fields who come to work in Japan. That's relatively new. A lot of people in that I think are also in IT and finance. Um, I don't know the details about what you have to do to qualify for that, but if you're interested, you could probably research it yourself. Then the working visa. These are the general visas that most people come in contact with when they're coming to Japan long term to work, especially. And you can see the one I used to have. I had the original one I had was the specialist in humanities, which you can see right here. Um, that visa is it covers people who are working in language schools, which is what I was doing at the time. So that's a good one for general jobs. You can see there's other jobs here, IT engineers, copywriters. So I find it's a bit interesting because I think a lot of people who get the highly skilled, um, there's probably some overlap of jobs here, right? So many people get that one when they come, that visa, when they're sponsored by a company. And the visas in general will be uh, from a sponsorship from a company. So your company, you have the job already, and basically your company or your sponsor handles the paperwork for you, most of it. Other visas here you can see. Another interesting one is religious activities. These are visas that people who are with religious organizations have. So there are lots of different ways to come here long term. Um, Now, in my case, although I've been a teacher, I never had an instructor visa. Now, this is for people who will be working in elementary schools and high schools and junior high schools. Um, I suppose if they're being sponsored directly from abroad, then they would have to come into Japan on the specific visa for what they'll be doing. If in the case of that, if it's working in schools, they'll need that visa. Now, for me, I had the Specialist in Humanities visa for about 4 years until I decided to uh, stop being a full timer in language schools, and I decided to trying to work in universities, which I got a job doing that. And my visa was going to expire soon, and I needed a new visa. But if you don't have a full-time job, no company is going to really sponsor your visa. So I was looking at a way to stay in Japan. So what I did was I asked around and I went to immigration and I asked about getting permanent residence, and they said I couldn't get permanent residence because I wasn't married to a Japanese person, and I had only been here for 5 years. In my situation, I would have to have been here for 10 years to apply for it. Now, if were married to a Japanese person, then it would be less time to apply for permanent residence. But um, as a person in my situation, 10 years was the time they told me. So the immigration officer suggested I try to naturalize, which is 5 year requirement to live consecutively in Japan. And that's what I did, but that's a different story. I'll talk about that later, but in a different video. But so what I did was I said, well, can I self sponsor, because one of my friends told me he had self sponsored his visa. So they told me, yeah, you can try that if you meet these requirements. And they gave me a list of things I had to bring in, and I got them together, and I was able to self sponsor my visa. And they asked me what kind of jobs will I be doing, and I said, well, I'm going to be working as a part-time university teacher. So I said, okay, well, you need a professor visa. So I got this, the professor visa. That was the last visa I had before I naturalized, and it was for 3 years. The visas typically go for from 1 year to 3 years, 1 year or 3 years. Although I've heard that they have some people get 5 year ones. I only have experience with 1 or 3 years. All right, so that's work visas. And like I said, you can self sponsor if you have been here and you've been working. Basically, they want to see your income statements. They want to see your tax information, and it's possible. But you can't really do it right out the gate. You need to have been here for a few years. Okay, so going down to this other visas here, you can. Um, I'm not going to go too much into them. I never had any of these other visas under the work visa category. Um, Although I've known people on the intern training visa, which is kind of a visa for people who are coming from, they're going to be working at a different kind of pay scale. They're kind of a controversial visa, but anyway, let's look at the general visa here. The general visas that I like to talk about really, well, two. One is the student visa. The student visa is, I think, a good one for people who are um, interested in studying Japanese, because you are able to get sponsorship by a language school, a Japanese language school, if you become a student, you enroll as a student. So, and it's called, here you can see it says pre-college. Pre-college means basically, pre-college basically means that you are studying in a Japanese language school, in order to qualify to go to a 4 year university and meet the language requirement. So that's what many students, especially from Asia, other countries in Asia, do. And I highly recommend it if you're interested in studying Japanese. You're going to need it if you live in Japan long term. All right, and another one I'll talk about because I have experience with is the dependent visa. My wife was on that visa when I was on my work visas, and my kids are also on that because even though they were all born here, they had to have visas and they were dependents. Even well, up until I naturalized, and we all naturalized together. I mean, my kids naturalized with me. So yeah, I have experience with that. Then here, if we go to specified visa. Now, these visas are well, the first one is spouse of a Japanese national. So I know about this one because this is the visa that my wife changed on to once I naturalized, because she didn't naturalize. So I naturalized, so she became the spouse of a Japanese national. And so we got that visa change. Then, so they're talking about spouse of permanent resident. So I know about permanent residency, and like I said, to apply for that, you have to have been here for 10 years, unless you're married to a Japanese national, then the time is shorter to apply for permanent residence. And the rules are different. I mean, it's really case by case. It depends on whether, lots of variables. Like I said before, married to a Japanese spouse. Another one could be there's other visa categories that are not here that are connected to heritage. So if you have Japanese heritage, that's also a way to increase your chances of getting long-term visas and having faster, depending on how far back your heritage goes, how recent it is. In other words, you could even get permanent residence quite quickly after you've gotten your heritage visa. But that's a different story. I'm not going to go into that too much because that's for people with Japanese heritage. And I think that's, if you know you have Japanese heritage, you can probably figure that out on your own. But yeah, and let's see. So next is a startup visa. Startup visa is a visa for people who are going to come to Japan and start a business. And I think that this is a pretty broad category. And I think you could even, I imagine that even if you were, let's say, a popular YouTuber, you could probably come to Japan on that, as long as you have the capital. So, but this visa is it's for 6 months, right? So, which I'm sure is renewable. And there's a list of requirements here for all these visas. So that's a good one if you have the capital to start a business, you have something you're doing, even if it was, say, online or IT based, you could, you could come to Japan and live long term or permanently based on that. As long as it's has some success, you can support yourself. And these other visas, I mean, they're pretty straightforward. I think most people wouldn't be getting these diplomatic or official visas. So yeah, I mean, these are the visas that you can get, and they will be available again. I know now with COVID-19, the visa process has pretty much been halted, but these are the ones that are available once the COVID-19 pandemic has been resolved. All right. And I'm going to end this vlog with my catchphrase: be as fast as the wind. 風のように速く. Thanks for watching.